In this lesson, you will learn how to finish filling in your test sheet with the values to be used in the physical test cases. In the previous lesson, we filled in values in the process portion of the test cases, as all of these were relevant to determine the combinations for creating instances or test cases on the test sheet level. We will still need to populate the test sheet with more physical values, which can be used as values in the test cases we build in the blue section of Tricentis Tosca. These values can be selected using the same method as we've previously seen, that is, selecting the appropriate instance's value for the attribute. A perfect example of this was the credit card information. We choose a specific card number, expiry data, and card type. These we will be able to use later on when we actually build a test case template by linking the attribute value to the test step value. We can add new attributes and instances now to the test sheet, which will not affect the number of combinations we already have. We can also start to fill in the non-business relevant and result attribute values. In our case, that will be administration and verification. This means selecting the desired instances. At first glance, this looks like a tedious job because it means adding each value manually one by one. However, there are ways to help speed up the process. First, we have the option to fill all empty values of a particular row. Let's look at the administration attribute. The test designer for all test cases was Max Methodology. If we right-click on the attribute itself, the option to Fill Empty Values appears in the context menu. Select the option Specific, and you can define the specific value you want to add. When there are instances defined already, you will simply select the desired instance from the drop-down box, and all cells will be populated. What if we want to fill empty values, but not all instances or test cases should have the same value? Let's look at the test stage attribute. We can actually filter for specific instances or test cases so that we can fill empty values only for the filtered instances. To do this, we would ensure that the filter column is visible using the column chooser. Then, on the level on which I want to filter, I will select the specifications. In this case, I want to filter the instance on the test sheet. I will filter on the test sheet level. Here you will see a drop-down arrow and all possible filters are visible. By default, all is selected, but I can deselect this and choose individual instances, for example, straight through, or choose by character and position, inner, valid, or boundary instances. With this filter set, I can then enter my values. We want the straight through to be identified as a smoke test, the inner valid instances to be defined as regression tests, and all boundaries to be defined as one-time tests. Notice that the row with the filter set becomes blue as well as the test sheet itself. This is a quick way to verify whether you have any filters set on lower levels that you may have forgotten about. I can then select all again from the filter, or right-click and select Reset Instances Filter from the context menu. There is also a new way of adding values without adding additional instances to the test sheet. These are called value attributes. They are not separate Tosca objects, but rather they are simply attributes without any instances or sub-attributes defined. These could be added wherever necessary. For example, we will add a line for the username under the type of user attribute. Rather than adding instances and then selecting them, we will enter the values themselves in the cells in the value attribute row on the test sheet. In our case, actual email addresses. A very important note when entering values into value attributes: they must be entered in at the lowest level on which the values will combine. So with this example, we would enter the value on the type of user level. This is because the value will be associated with the registered user instance. Everywhere that the registered user is selected as the type of user instance, the email@company.com email address will be used. Once entered on the lower level, I can see this populating by then focusing again on the test sheet. If I were to enter the email address on the test sheet level and ignore the lower level combinations, It will instead think that I want to create a new type of user that is different from the registered user, and this then affects my combinations.